Welcome back to another LP Gallery tutorial. Today we're going to continue our Christmas series by creating a pine cone, or at least an object that looks reasonably close to a pine cone. And then we'll add some nice snowy effects to it in case you want to use this in something like a wintry scene. The pine cone itself is fairly easy to create. You're creating a petal shape like this. So basically, if you ever created flowers using PowerPoint, it's basically the same thing. So we're going to have bigger petals to the front, smaller ones to the back, and that's what's going to give it that kind of three-dimensional looking shape to it. Okay, so as you can see, we only need one shape here to use, and we just duplicate them, make them smaller, and rotate them around. Okay, so let's go get it. We're going to go here. We're going to grab the delay shape from the flowchart section here. That's one of my favorite shapes. You can do a lot with this shape. It's perfect for creating things like petals. So we've got something like that. We're going to now rotate it. And I'll just make it a shade bit smaller. There you go. Now, you could actually make this much smaller like that. You can make it much longer than that. You can do it all kinds of ways. There's many different kinds of pine cones. But I think something that's more like this is about perfect for what we need. Okay, so what makes this look realistic or really help to sell the illusion of the pine cone is that we're going to actually use one of those nice wooden textures. So because it's a wooden texture, it has a natural feel to it already. It will help sell the idea of this being a pine cone. So let's go get our wooden texture. Okay, so we're going to go to our picture and texture fill. There's your default. We're going to click here, and we have three wooden ones. We have the dark, the light, and the middle. The dark's too dark, the light's too light, and the middle is just right. So we're going to click on the middle, and we get that. Okay, now this is going to be very important. We do not want to tile this, so we're going to uncheck that because I actually want to see the grain pattern. That's what's going to help sell this, is the fact that it actually looks wooden. Now we're going to remove the outline, and we have this. Okay, now the next step is this. We're going to be overlapping these, and we don't want to see the overlaps. So we're going to put a gradient. We're going to create a duplicate and have it go from black to transparent. So when they overlap, you're not going to see the gap. Let's do that. We'll make a duplicate, and we're going to add a gradient to that one. So we go to our gradient. You get your typical gradient, default gradient. We're going to move that. We only need two stops, and I'm going to put this to 0. Okay, so you can see we have the white here. We have the blue here. So I want the black here and transparent. So the white will go black. If you've been following our tutorials, you already know that when we deal with PowerPoint 2013 and higher, PowerPoint handles gradient transparency a little different than the earlier versions. The earlier versions, like PowerPoint 2007 and 10, I actually did it right. PowerPoint 2013 and higher is kind of a little finicky on this, so I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make that white. And I'm going to make it transparent. Then I'll place this on top, and when I do that, it doesn't really go black to transparent. It goes black to kind of a gray to transparent. That's not what I want. And that's just how PowerPoint kind of works. If you really want black to transparency, the second stop actually has to be the same color. So that has to be black. And we make that transparent. And there's your black to transparent. Next thing I'm going to do is I want this black to come actually a little more down here. So I'm going to grab the black stop. I'm going to grab and just move it in like this. Okay, so what I want is more darkness here, so when they overlap, you won't see the edges. So I'm actually bringing it down a bit, maybe about 30%. So about 30% should be good. Okay, now I'm going to select this, and to make sure they're actually on top of each other, I'm going to go to my format, I'm going to my line, align both centers, center middle, and then I'm going to group it, and I have that. Okay, so the next step is just to make our petal pattern. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate one of these. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller, and I'm going to rotate it. So they're going to kind of overlap a bit like this. And I'm going to take that one, just rotate it the other way. And we have that. Then I'm going to take that one, make it a little bit smaller, and rotate it. And just take that one, duplicate it, rotate it. So you kind of get the idea. I'm trying to make like a petal type pattern. It doesn't have to be a perfect petal pattern. And I'm going to take that one, make it a little bit smaller, and rotate it. And do that again, flip it here, rotate that, and I have that. And then of course we'll make one more at the back. Now, how many of these you make isn't all quite that important. You can have a lot more if you want it more of a roundness around here, but I think this is probably pretty good. Okay, so the idea is the back ones are receding into the background, so you don't want to see them as much because they're behind, so they're opening from behind, so we don't want to see them quite as much. Okay, so you can just move these around until you think you're happy with it. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the center part. You can see there's a little bit of an opening here, so just so you don't see any background coming through, I'm going to just go here and let's say grab a circle, just drag a little circle shape on top of this, and what I think I'll do is make it black, remove the outline, and that just makes sure that there's no background showing through. So the overlaps are covered. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to just group it. And there it is. So now all you have to do now is just duplicate it and just make it a little bit smaller. And that's it. Now you can make these really close together or you can stretch them out. So it depends on the kind of pine cone you're trying to create. Sometimes the seed pod petals, when they spread out, are farther apart, some are closer in. So it depends on what you want. So I'm going to do something like this, and I'm going to take that one and make that one just a little bit smaller, and we get something like that. And you can see it looks reasonably close to a pine cone. So we got something like that. Now how many rows you want to make is entirely up to you. So maybe I'll just add one more. And we get something like that. Okay, so we have something that kind of looks close enough to a pine cone. Sometimes I like to take the tops of these, make this one more time, and I kind of like to squish them up a bit, just kind of like that. And I just kind of throw them on top, just so that it looks more like something opening up, kind of like that. So you can kind of do that if you want to do something like that, just so it looks like a real, the top part of the pine cone just starting to bend open. Or open up. So you can do something like that. Now we have to group everything. And there's your pine cone. Okay, the next step, of course, is adding the snow effect. So we can, let's say I want to put it this way, I can put it that way. You can do it any which way you like. So I want to add some nice snow effects to this. Okay, so how do we add snow effects? Now this one's going to be pretty easy to do. It looks very complicated. If you look at these, they look very complicated, but they're actually very simple to do. One of my favorite shapes to use for the idea of ice and snow is actually the cloud shape. So let me go get the cloud shape. I'm going to grab my little cloud shape here, and I'm going to just draw a cloud shape. There it is, cloud shape. Okay, now obviously I don't want my line in there. And I am going to put a gradient. Now this time I'm going to go from white to transparent. And you're going to see how effective this is for creating something that looks like an icy, snowy combination. So we have something like this. So we're going to go to our gradient. And basically I'll just take this and I'll just make that white. And of course this one has to be white. Okay, so let's take this one and let's make it transparent. And let's see, we're going to rotate it. I want the white to be at the top. So about a 90%. And I'll just squish this down. And I'll bring this in. Something like this. And I'm going to take this back a bit. Now the beauty is this. You have lots of control depending on how white I want this to be. Make it look more like snow. Make it look more like ice. So I can drag that around. And I can take this and bring this up. And here's the real magic. This is the transparent one. So I can have it full like this, or I can have it very flat like this. Okay. And when you put it on top of this, especially the pine cone, you get the strong feeling of an icy, snowy combination where there's ice on the pine cone, but you can still see through it. So you can see how effective that is. Now you'll notice that I have a blue background here, and that's going to be very important because I don't want this to be overlapped like this. I don't want any overlap going off the background. So it's very important to have some kind of a background to make sure that the ice is fitting within there. So I'm going to just draw a shape. Let's see, I'll just take a rectangle shape like this. It doesn't really matter the color. I'm going to send it to the back and there. So this is what I'm talking about. We don't want this ice to be hanging off. So we want to make sure it's on the petals. So it's going to be important to have a background so you can actually see this. Okay, so you can see I want to take this down a bit. And so we have something like that, and it kind of looks like a bit ice and snow. You can do it both ways. I have it going that way, but it could also be vertical, depending on what you're trying to do. So depending on how you're trying to build this, like a big pile of snow or just little bits of snow. And all you have to do is make these and decide how many you like. Okay, so you can put them anywhere you like. I can put it here, stretch it out. And I've got this. And again, I can play with this, make it smaller, bigger, whatever I want. And you get a nice transition effect between snow and ice. You can still see the background. And the idea is, of course, that you're trying to follow the pattern of the petals. So and we get stuff like this. So it kind of looks like snowy and ice. So what makes this the real effect of snow and ice, of course, is the drips. So now we got to add a little bit of drips here, and it will give the feeling of a nice wintry snow effect. Okay. Now, one of my favorite shapes to look like a drip is this one here. You're not going to believe how easy this is, and you probably won't believe me until I actually create it. I'm going to actually grab one of these little brackets. Okay. Right brace, as it's called. I'm going to draw it. And just right here, and I'm going to just take this, I'm going to bore that fill, I'm going to apply it to this, and let's put it back. Let's so you can see it. Okay, let's rotate it. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to rotate the fill. I want it to be, the white to be more at the bottom. Something like that. And I'm going to just drag this back a bit, and we get this. Okay, now what's so great about this tool is that you have a shape handle here and a shape handle here. So this shape handle will round it off. So I want to go round, and this shape handle will make the drip. You can go left or right. So you can have it more like that. You can have it go like that. So I'll leave it in the middle. The more that it's in the middle, if you leave it in the middle like this, you get the rounder edges. If you move it to the sides, you get a little more of a straight edge, but that really doesn't matter because it can often be hidden by just making it transparent. So if I take something like this, I get something that looks reasonably close to a drip. Okay, so these can now just be placed on here, and they're transparent, and you still have the same kind of control like this. You can make it brighter, lighter, whiter, darker, lighter, transparent. So you still got that. And then when you just put them like this, they have a tendency to look a little more natural, and they really look like a drip. So it'll look like ice melting, and you got something like that. Now, of course, you probably want to make them bigger and smaller so they're not all exactly the same size. So like this. So you can see they blend in pretty good. And next thing you know, you got a nice little drippy melting ice on top of your nice little pine cone, just like that. We could continue this and add more. We could make it more like this, but I think you kind of get the idea. So the cloud shape worked really well for this. You're using a white to white with one transparent, and then you're just controlling the transparency, the degree of transparency, the length of transparency, and the same with the whiteness. And then you're using the little brace here to give it a drip. There's a couple other shapes you could use for a drip, but this one's probably one of the easiest to do. And there it is. So you can just see it just works perfectly. So now you got a pine cone with ice. So thank you for watching our tutorial, and we hope you stick around to watch the rest of this series. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.